goodness. I think, again, there's always a little bit of lag from when I stop my little pre-roll uh, thing and I start the actual stream proper. Pour me some coffee. Pour me some coffee. Alright. It looks like I might be live. Can folks see me? Can I get a confirmation from the chat if they can see and or hear me, or both? Both would be preferable. I'm assuming that's a yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, nice. So hi, I'm Joshua. Today is October 23rd, 2016, and today I'm working on a game called Delver. And for those of you who don't know, Delver is it's a video game to start out. It's an independently made video game, which means that if I were to translate that, that means there's two of us who are working on it in our free time. We have no budget, and this is certainly a passion project. We've been working on it for several years now, and I love this. Like the public passion projects is like really near to my heart, and I want to make it as good as I can, but I don't want to spend forever on it. You are right now in the weekly Delver development test stream. So every Sunday at noon Pacific time, I work. I invite the community to come hang out with me while I work on the game, and you can ask me questions about the game, where we're headed, any little things that bother me. You also ask me about game development in general, pixel art, whatever is on your mind, look at that. You can look at chat. Cool, looks like, hey everybody, so looks like Double Visuals here, I'm Goodly, one of mine Thanos, best set, Wow Freak, says it's my, hold on, audio problems, let's do something like, that. How about that? I think I had, last week, I was on vacation in California, and I didn't have my normal setup. Like my normal setup is like two monitors, a dedicated webcam, a keyboard, mouse, stuff like that. And last Sunday I was streaming from a hotel room, so I didn't have all that. I just had my laptop. So I think I had my configuration still set up to use the built-in microphone, which you're probably picking up a lot of like fan noise. So hopefully that's been corrected. Cool. Cool. So Delver. Let's start working on Delver. Yeah. So one of the first things I do at the start of the stream is I like to talk about what progress was made during the past week. And I just do this by going to the Git repository, and I do a Git log, and I use some options to do some pretty printing. What is a Git log? Dash dash one line. This relative date is kind of cool since a week ago, and I do some pretty formatting just so you can kind of parse it visually a little bit better. But since last week, not a lot. And there's a reason for that. So it looks like mostly just tweaking the art for the wands. So I guess I'll show you the new wands and show you the game if you're new to the game. I think it's a good way to start. Looks like Chris has popped in. Hey Chris, greetings from the Pacific Northwest, everybody. Okay. So if you notice, we just throw if you want. So we have the missile wand, which is kind of been we've been working on. We've been working on differentiating the wands. So initially, the wands, all they were basically was the exact same thing with a little bit of art and different damage types. But the damage types don't do a terrible lot. So basically, they're just reskin versions of the same thing, which isn't terribly interesting. So we're going through and actually differentiating them a bit. Um, and I'm just gonna throw them all down and we'll talk about them. Okay, so actually the storm wand hasn't changed at all. It's kind of this horn-looking thing. It has 6 charges. It does decent damage, 4 to 24, which is quite a bit. But this is effectively our railgun. It just blasts ahead, you know, and it just shoots through everything until it hits solid geometry. Then we have the Paralyze Wand, which is new. Basically, I think it does damage, actually. I'm not sure if it should. It does 2 to 4 damage. It does a little damage, but it will paralyze enemies so they stop moving for a fairly decent duration. We have the Missile Wand, which is basically just a rapid fire, low damage, but you get a lot of charges wand. There is the Fire Wand, which is this is still pretty vanilla. I'd like to make it more of a rocket launcher, so I want to have a better explosion effect and maybe a little bit more of a knockback, which I think would be cool. And then, yeah, and then I have this guy, the Ice Wand, and this is effectively our shotgun. So it shoots a blast like that, and it has not a lot of charges. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it slows the enemies. So it's a good way to slow a large group of enemies to make them a little bit more manageable. But today I wanted to talk about a secret project I've been working on this week, which is why the Git log doesn't show a lot of changes. So Chris is commenting that I guess initially I must have blasted the first ice wand I had away. Yep, there it is. Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to shooting off stuff. So yeah, so things are physicsy to a degree. So I can, you know, I can knock stuff around if I'm not careful. It's fun. It allows happy little accidents to happen. Can the enemy? So 109 Thanos is asking, can the enemy hit you while he's paralyzed? Yes, currently he can, or they can, but I would like to make it so they don't. And I also want to make it so we play a little, like a little star effect above their head, which I have already created. We just need to get that hooked up in Engine. But the thing I'm excited to show you about today is I've been secretly working on improving archery. So for those of you who played the game, you know that we do have some ranged weapon offerings. So this is the short bow, and you wind it up and you shoot, and the arrow just kind of, whoa, what happened to the arrow? That is strange. I've never seen that happen before. Might be, yeah, that's super weird. Okay, yeah, so basically, you fire an arrow, and the longer you hold it down, the further it shoots. Also, the more damage it does. But a lot of people complain that if you charge it up and you go up against a wall, there was a really good chance it would ricochet off the wall and hurt you and sometimes kill you. Like that would have killed me. So as a stopgap measure, we have turned off the ability for arrows to damage you, which I think is kind of okay. But I wasn't happy with this current state of things. Like, if you notice, like, the short bow just does 1 to 4 damage, and if I go to a better bow, so I think it's just called bow, the only differentiation is that it does more damage, and that's it, really. So I wanted to improve that. So let's go over here, and I created a separate branch to work out of where I wanted to improve archery. So let's look at that, and then I'll talk about. Um, I guess I'll do a git log on that too, so we can see actually what's happening. So same command here. Um, so it looks like I've done. Yeah, so something that was kind of chapping my hide was um, the arrows were drawn like at the incorrect resolution, and not only that, the pixel ratio was not square. They were um, like 4:3 ratio, like the height to width, which is strange. So I fixed that. I also worked on improving um, the collision versus the world. Um, Chris had given me Chris has suggested doing sphere collision, but we don't really support that. So what I did is I made the hitbox smaller, which has some problems, but I've tried to work around those. So roughly the hitbox is a cube, roughly the same width and height as the arrow. So that seems to work out okay. I added a range stat to bows. So bows can effectively fire at different lengths. And this is done just by um, giving them different velocities, I guess like in real life, when they exit the bow. Um, I also made it so with Chad's new enchantment system, bows actually honor the enchantments. If you get a short bow of fire, when you fire an arrow, the arrow will have all the appropriate like effects on it, and it will actually do fire damage. Before that, arrows always did physical damage. Um, I also added the ability for monsters. You can actually just always have them drop loot. This is just a property. Modders may be interested in this. Um, and I did that to support the fact that whenever you hit a monster with an arrow, it will basically add the arrow to the monster's loot, so you can recover your arrows from dead monsters, which I thought was important um, for the for an archer. Because personally, like I'm really passionate about this because as a kid, I was really into archery, and I spent a lot of time um, just with my bow. And actually, I still have behind me in my closet is is my little compound bow from when I was like, uh, geez, 14. So it's ancient, and I'm really terrified that if I draw it back, the bowstring will snap, and it will give me this huge like welt on my arm. But I still have it. And this last change here is me just kind of nerfing the stats a little. But I'm really excited to fire this up and kind of show you how things are working now. Chris is saying that he thinks the blood decals have a smaller pixel ratio than the floor. That's correct. They do. Um, I try not to be too crazy about it. I try to, man, I try to go no smaller than 75% or no greater than 150% um, of the normal pixel ratio. So that way everything's roughly the same. I'm not super strict about it, but if I can make it better, I try to. So let's fire up the new archery stuff, and I'll preview that. Let me just go ahead and erase that and start fresh. Okay, so ranged, short bow, and then ranged. I give myself some arrows, so it's actually interesting. Okay, um, so a couple things. First off, you'll notice you can arrows now stick into walls. Um, Instead of bouncing back and killing you, you just embed the arrow into the wall, which I think is really cool. Because as you're fighting something, and as you're like kind of like wildly, if you have like a wild shot and miss, it will stick in the wall, and I don't know, like, it's nice to like after a battle to have like scorch marks and blood stains and the arrow sticking in the wall to kind of remind you like, yeah, something went down here. But also it allows you to again recover your arrows, which I think is important for an archer playstyle. Um, So yeah, you can stick them into the wall. The collision still isn't 100%. Um, yeah, normally I never touch code, so this is the first time I've actually changed a substantial amount of code. So Chad will probably I'm gonna have Chad do a pull request on this. Um, and you can still get weird situations where they will like stick in situations where they don't stick, but I think it's still pretty edge casey. Like, but I think for the most part it works well because I know people want to like kind of like peek around corners and like take little pot shots, and that's excuse me something you certainly can do. Um, so one of my Thanos always asks me why do I always delete the previous save. Sometimes when I'm changing the underlying item data, I can corrupt the save file and it just won't load, so I just delete it anyways. Dr. Kegel says, can arrows stick into each other and can I build bridges with it? No, arrows cannot stick into each other. So if I stick an arrow into the wall and if something hits it, it gets knocked free. So if you hit another arrow with an arrow, it will knock the arrow free. But this is kind of cool. Like I was playing around with something kind of silly where you can do like um, stick a bunch of arrows in the wall because like I can, right? Like I have all these arrows, and yay! And I think there's a potential trap there. Like you could have like an exploding barrel with arrows stuck in it, and when you explode it, all the arrows get forced away real quick, making some sort of like a almost like a claymore or some kind of crazy like shrapnel bomb. I think that'd be a fun thing to play with. Right now, the force from the explosion isn't enough to really send them flying very far, but um, I don't know that just crack. I just like the fact that they actually play along with physics and they behave like I think they ought. Um, so WoW Freak is saying, why did we choose libgdx in Java to do the game? That is more of a Chad question. Because he worked on the game a full year before I was brought on board. Um, I think, yeah, he could answer that better than I could. Another thing you'll notice is ba, 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 ba. They all now have ranges, which is really cool, I think. Um, so bow and longbow. I haven't updated the art, and maybe that's what I'll work on this stream is actually adding some differentiation art so the bows all look different. So we have the short bow, which actually it has a pretty short range, but a pretty quick draw speed. Like you can draw it back pretty quick, but the range is pretty limited. So I'll just fire down here. So it goes, a good ways down the road, and then I go to the normal bow, which will probably put it down, like down the stairs, and then the long bow will actually like hit the far wall, um, which I think actually makes a difference in kind of how you use them. Um, uh-oh. Um, okay, that's another thing I think about is interesting about the archer play is you potentially can get your arrows in spots you can't recover them easily or at all. And I think this has to make you play as a smart archer, but also like before arrows were very limited. Like whenever you hit something like an enemy, the arrow would disappear forever. So now that you can recover them, you play differently. So I'm trying to think of like I think it's acceptable because you don't get a lot of arrows, and occasionally you get them in places where you can't get them back down. I could grab a wand and like shoot it down, which I think would work. Or you could probably throw junk at it and hit it. Um, but yeah, it's nice that now the bows they have ranges, and they still have the damage differentiation, but also to do a full draw on a longbow takes a very long time, versus with a short bow it's pretty quick, but the range is halved, and the damage is like a third. So it just depends how you want to play, which I'm all about rather than the bows being strictly one is greater than the other, I like to give them trade-offs. Because I notice some people like to play speed, and some people like to play like high damage, and I think those are both valid ways to play, and I want to enable that. Oh, another thing. Let me show you that real quick. I want to show off um, the bows actually honoring uh, the enchantments. So let's do something like, let's make a copy of this, and let's just go ahead and make it easy for me to find. So tier 2 item or level 2 items. Okay, and bow. And this is going to be the wizard bow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach an enchantment to it. So enchantment. And enchantments, I believe, are just a class. And if we go down here to, I think it's called item modifications. So these item modifications are actually what the enchantments are. So I can do something like magic, the arcane. So I'll copy this and then I'll paste it onto the enchantment up there. So hopefully this will work out like I think it will. Okay, let's launch and see if I get any errors. So let me just throw all my bows in a bush. And then I think we created this new one. So ranged Wizard's Bow of the Arcane. That sounds pretty sweet. And yeah, so now they honor the like it creates a little light when you shoot it. It creates little hit effects. That's weird. Yeah, it's doing something strange there. But yeah, it emits particles both on hits and on die. Has a little dynamic light attached to it. Yeah, I might give myself some more arrows. Right now, I think there's a slight bug with reusing arrows, but I'm not 100%. But yeah, it's fun just to kind of stick some of these into walls. You can use it to light up dark areas just for a short time. I was playing around with how long that effect should remain active. Because Delver is limited to the number of dynamic lights we can have. So I try to keep it short for that purpose. And also, I mean, I don't want you to be able to like permanently light up an area either. I mean, it is an option if you need like a quick little light, and then you can recover it, and that's great and all. So that's something I was playing around with too. So this is for the magic hit effect. The fire and the ice and the paralyze. All the coloring is appropriate. It just has the same little particle effect, which I think is cool, and hopefully will go a long ways to making how archers play more interesting. So Chris is asking if Cryo21 says hello. So hello Cryo, thank you for stopping by my stream. Chris is asking arrows if they hits will they ever differentiate hard surfaces arrows can stick in? Stone will make it bounce, wood will get stuck. So actually, it differentiates like if the arrow strikes the wall at a glancing angle, it will still bounce. Which you can do some crazy trick shots if you're good, but if the angle is steep enough, it will stick. I played around with the idea that maybe there's a small chance that when you stick an arrow into a wall, it will break. I'm just kind of curious to see people who are interested in playing as archers how that works and how the arrow balance works. Because like I want the arrow management to be interesting. I don't want you to be like so full of arrows you can just fire them mindlessly. And I don't want them to be so sparse that it's not feasible to play as an archer. 109 Thanos says breakable wall could be cool. Yeah, the engine already supports breakable walls, and we have them. Like if I jump down real quick, um, this interstitial area has breakable walls, and there's nothing special about this. It's just we support breakables, so I just made a wall-shaped breakable that is wide, and yeah, you can smash through walls. That's a thing. Um, but it's not there's a differentiation between like mesh models and level geometry. Level geometry we cannot change um, at runtime, but like the breakable models we certainly can. So sometimes you can certainly um, use geometry or you can use models that look like level geometry to fake it. But the thing is I want to be clear about communicating that for the most part, the wood stuff in all the wooden stuff in Delver you can break, or at least most of it. We need to be better about that. There's some wood stuff you can't break, so I need to go back through and either fix that or differentiate it somehow. But yeah, but I think this is a design language to player, like pretty much all the wood stuff you can break. Um, so Wizlock says, "Love the art style. Game looks great. Keep it up." Thank you for the encouragement. I really appreciate that. Yeah, getting getting positive feedback saying that what we're doing is good, getting constructive feedback saying which direction you'd like to see us is good. So I appreciate both things. Um, Dr. Kegel says, "Can I make an arcane potion water bottle which will explode with the same effect it's triggered with?" Yeah, you can. That's more of a I don't know. I feel a little weird about this because normally I don't touch the code um, because I primarily do all the art and visuals on Delver. That's kind of how we've broken out the roles. So I do all the art and or a lot of the level design, 2D art, 3D art, UI art, whatever. That's kind of my responsibility. And Chad does all the programming and handles a lot of the business work. And that's kind of how we've had it separated out, and that's how it's worked really well for a long time. Um, but I guess I've seen people, several folks complain about how the archery elements in Delver weren't really great, and I kind of agreed with them. And I'm passionate about archery, and because we're a small team, we have the flexibility that if one of us really like gets really passionate or into something and fixing it, we can just kind of do that. Like there's not a lot. I mean, I'm trying to stay good to our process, but I think as long as we are making the game better, I think that's good. Like this past month, we were mostly focusing on like more particle effects, better animations, and better UI. So I do need to get back to finishing that stuff up as well, but because I don't know, I wanted to make the archery feel better, and we were improving the wand experience. I thought that kind of went hand in hand. Curious Epic says, "Good to see it's getting more love after the hiatus." Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I took a hiatus for about a year during the during the pregnancy and birth of my child. Um, so that was a hard year, and we didn't get a lot of work done on Delver, and you know, I needed to support my wife. It was difficult, but he's here and he's healthy, and I'm a stay-at-home dad now too. So life has changed a lot, and um, my wife supports me, and it's great to have a fixed time every week to sit down and do work and to hang out with the community. Okay, so let's do some art. I want to make these bows actually look different. So let's quit. Sorry, oh, nope, Command Q does not work on Windows because Command doesn't exist on Windows, so let me Alt F4. Okay. So I think what I want to do is I want to move the air or the art for the bow, because currently, if you're familiar with how the item sheet is laid out, um, like we have like a column of melee weapons, and they go melee all the way across. And then we have nothing, and then we have the bow all over here by its lonesome, and then we have wands. So I think I want to give this its own space. So um, Delver is pretty nice in the fact that you can kind of, as long as you keep because we look up the sprites by index, uh, as long as you don't, so at least without a like a spreadsheet editor, as long as you don't change the width, you can just resize the image arbitrarily, as long as you know um, it has the correct number of rows. So if I want to add 4, so that's 32 times 4 is 428. So I need to image canvas. Actually, I can probably just do it. I can just probably eyeball it using the resize canvas tool. So I want, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what I want. Cool. And then what I would want is the bows to have their own little area down here. If I remember right, this kind of nestled into the corner there, because I used up a good chunk of the texture space. Okay. So that looks correct. Let me merge that, save that. Let me fire up Pixel Edit. Must have updated it recently. The nice thing about Pixel Edit is it will tell me the tile numbers. So I just will quickly import it into Pixel Edit and look at what tile number I need to be working with. Tiled images, and then I need to bring in the items open. It's 32 by 32. Import tiles. I don't want to merge duplicates because that will merge some of these graphics error things. So I want to keep those. I just want to know basically what the numbers are for each sprite. So hit import, and then I'm just gonna go over here and let me see. If I zoom in, maybe. Yeah. So if you hit tab, that will show you the ID number for every item. And how bows work is you give it the ID of the first sprite, and then it will automatically increment for the animation. So let me just make sure that is the case. So this is now index 128. So if I go to my items.dat and I look for bow, for example, my short bow, it was texture 15, that needs to be texture 128. Let me save that. Let me just make sure I'm not seeing, let me just do that so I don't get false positives. I don't want to think I've updated it when I have in fact not. And maybe actually I can finish using this row for more melee stuff. Who knows? Also more wands. We'll see. It's nice that now the bows can have their own little area to live. So this will help you troubleshoot that. That should be a new texture. Let me launch that and just make sure my changes are going through as I expect. And I have quite a few folks in the chat today, which is really cool. Also, again, feel free to ask questions. This is kind of a time for me to work and for you to learn about what we're doing. You can also use it to learn about art or game dev in general. Yeah, I hope everybody's having a good Sunday. So let's go ahead and spawn in a short bow. That looks correct. Let's actually, I don't even need ammo. I think you can still play the animation without. Yep, cool. So that's correct. If I spawn in a longbow or a bow, which we have not updated, I get the graphics error, which we expect, and it plays its animation but doesn't look like anything. Okay, so we have correctly updated the sprite sheet. So let's go ahead and let's make some new art for the bows. I'm kind of excited about that, and maybe even make some additional bows, because right now we have 3, and I think we can get a little more creative with that. So let's do that. Let's start off by let me think. So because my thinking so far is there is no class system in Delver, but I would like for you to be able to use the items you have equipped to simulate classes. So I would like to support melee, and we have quite a few melee weapons in the game right now. As you can see, you know, there's 9 swords and 9 like mace hammers. So there's 18 melee weapons, um, which is a good amount. There are 5 wands, which is like a quarter, and there are 3 bows, which is a sixth. So right now, archers don't have a lot of options. And also, I was looking at the drop rates, and the drop rates are also disproportionate as well. So I would probably go in and tweak those. Again, with the mindset that with these 3 different ways to play, so try to make it viable to play as a melee, to play as a magic user, and to play as a ranged like an archer. Let me see. I thought about making different types of arrows, but I want to keep that kind of the management simple, because right now it's just a single item stack, and I don't want to get too crazy with that. I think it's handier if the bows do the differentiation and the arrows are just kind of what make the bows go. Cryo21 says, I have not seen the orange potion in the game. Is that a new sprite? Yes, it is a new sprite. We added a new potion. We have a potion to paralyze. So as you have guessed, if you drink it, you are stuck to the spot for a time. But also you can throw it, or you can make a trap with it to paralyze a group of enemies. And the potions are always randomized at the start of the game. So this isn't always the paralyzed potion. Sometimes, you know, it's a different potion. I'm not sure why. Also, the art on that is messed up. I'm not sure why it's off center like that. So yeah, so we added. We're working on adding this new paralyze effect. So we added a potion to also support that. We have a wand to paralyze, and we also have a modifier for items to be able to paralyze stuff as well. Well, Freak says, I think the magic missile wand needs more charges. So the new wand, which is not out yet, has 20. The new magic missile wand, the little purple guy over here, it does less damage, but it has a auto fire and a fairly high repeat rate, and it has 20 charges, which I think works well, because you can kind of blast through stuff. And it's also useful for like knocking like other spells out of the air. But you don't have a lot of charges, so you have to be kind of careful with how you play with that. And again, talking about trying to balance out the modes of play, like right now, even by the way we drop items, it's pretty heavily in favor of melee characters, and I want to kind of rebalance that a little bit with the mindset that either 3 ways of play should be viable. And again, people always ask about the recharging a wand. I don't want to recharge wands, but I do have some ideas on how to make playing as a mage work a little bit better. Okay, so back to making bow art. So like I said, we have 18 melee weapons, 5 wands, 3 bows. I think I think 4 or 5 bows would be good. Right now we have short bow, bow, and long bow. I think adding like like a hunter's bow, like a bow that has better range than a normal bow, but um, it does less damage and maybe a little bit better of a fire rate. I'm just trying to play some of these stats to try to come up with um, different types of bows. Because really, I mean, in real life, there are, I guess there are like, I don't know, it just depends who you ask, but there are like short bows, there's long bows, there are recurve, there are composite, there are compound. There aren't a terrible lot, and I don't want to do compound bows because this is um, a fantasy setting, and I don't want to um, go crazy with that. So I'm thinking short bow, bow, long bow, maybe hunter's bow, and maybe either composite or recurve. So maybe 5. I think 5 bows would bring up the number of da, 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 options for the archer to something a little bit better. Okay. X model says crossy. So crossbows do. I mean, I've thought about crossbows. They could be interesting. I don't know. I think I'm gonna go just with traditional bows right now. 'Cause I think the real difference with crossbows is if I were to implement them, they would be hit scan and not projectile, and they would have a very long reload time. So I'm not sure. Um, so I think I want to try to go with just adding um, adding the bows in first and see how people react before I do anything crazy with like crossbows or anything like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and start setting up some item definitions for that. Um, so short bow. And I don't want this to be enchanted. I don't want this to be enchanted, even though it was cool. I want it to be so 1, 2, 3. Uh, 4. So and I don't want them actually to replace the usefulness. I want them to be interesting choices. So um, maybe this will be the composite bow. Bow, and number 4 will be the hunter's bow. So to make it interesting, I think I want the composite bow to have a range that's worse than this bow. So the range here is 6. So it would have a range of 5, I think. So that's better than the short bow. The range of 4, yeah. So it would have a range of 5. I think it should do more damage than the typical bow, because composite bows are cool because actually you find composite bows kind of kind of all over the place. I think I know they're pretty prominent in Asia, but I also think like also I think in Egypt too. I think they have also had composite bows. What's cool is it's not necessarily a single piece of wood, but it's multiple materials laminated. So it's like wood and hide, and the way that the layering happens is they compress differently, and you actually get a lot more energy out of the bow. And they typically they tend to be a little bit smaller. So I'm thinking not a crazy long range, but a pretty hard hitting bow, I think would make this interesting. So so the base damage on the bow is 4 and 4. So if I bring this up to, so this means it's 4 to 8, and the longbow is 7 to 14. If this was maybe 8 to 12, that would be okay. And then the speed, I think the speed for the composite bow, I'm imagining the composite bow actually, because it generates a lot more energy, maybe it's harder to draw back, so maybe it's actually a little bit slower than the normal bow. So the range is worse, it's a little bit slower, but it does more damage. Maybe not a lot slower, so maybe the speed, um, maybe 7.5. I don't know. I mean, these are kind of arbitrary numbers. I I I kind of rely on you folks to provide feedback on what you think is broken and not broken. Yeah, and Chris is saying like play it in different play styles. The bows that let you move quicker when pulled back would suit a more Doom style of play. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about with the short bow, because a short bow you can get to a full draw pretty quick, and it allows you to be pretty mobile. It's just that the range isn't great, so you either have to attack at short range, or you have to really kind of aim high and compensate for the lack of velocity. I don't know if I want to actually slow the player down, but I think the length of time it takes to draw the bow kind of reflects that. And I don't want things to be a nice even gradient either. I think if they're differentiated, that's good. So short bow, then we have composite bow, bow, and then hunter's bow. So the hunter's bow should have pretty good range. Like it should almost, so it should have a range of maybe 7, so it's not quite as long as the longbow, but it does. I think it should do less damage than the normal bow, because I don't know. Let me think. So this is 4 to 8, so maybe um, hmm, 4 to 8 for the bow, so I could make it do uh, 3 to 6. So maybe it's more consistent, has a little bit longer reach, but maybe I'll make it a little bit more speedy. I think that's how we could make this a little bit better. Um, so if it was like 1.15 or 1.25, because maybe the hunter bow you can actually draw it, like, because the hunter's bow is actually maybe it's kind of made with the idea of actually bringing down an animal, which, like, if you're trying to, I think if you're trying to like bring down an animal versus bring down like an armored opponent, I think um, like the bow and the arrow you're going to use are kind of drastically different. So I'm kind of modeling those combinations with the bow itself. So I imagine hunter's bow would, you'd be able to draw it pretty quick and have a good range, but you don't need to do a crap ton of damage because you're targeting an animal, not a combatant. Okay, so that gives me 5 bows, which I think is cool. And now I just need to make sure that I have all the correct texture IDs so we can start painting these guys in. Um, actually, it's actually sequential, which is really handy. So this one should be texture 129. And then this one is texture 130. And this is texture 131. And then this is texture 132. Okay, I think that's cool. Let me just, as a quick sanity check, let me go into game, drop all these, and make sure they actually work. Because if I misplaced a comma, or if I got the texture index incorrect, we'll see strangeness. Okay, so ranged. Yay! Look at all this. Look at all this variety now. So short bow, pretty sure that works. Always good to check. Yep. And then uh, composite bow, which it looks like it did not work correctly. There's nothing there. Uh-oh. Why is it not? Did I not save? Let me. Okay, I must not have saved this file. So let me save that. Let me exit Delver. See, that's why I put the graphics error. Let me just go ahead and do that while we're talking about it. Like I like to um, put these hot pink textures in, so when that particular situation happens, um, trying to debug invisible items is a pain in the neck. So let's just go ahead and make sure that doesn't happen again. And let's save that. And let's close that out. And then let's relaunch. Okay, race, play. Okay, so again, I'm just gonna test everything because I want to be thorough. So the short bow works. The composite bow, there we go. Composite bow works. It's a little bit slower, but it does 8 to 12. Is that correct? It seems like a lot. It's a pretty big jump. Ranged. The bow does 4 to 8. I might have messed up the damage on that one. Okay, so I need to revisit the composite mode just to make sure. Hunter's bow. So range of 7, 3 to 9 damage. It's decently quick draw, still kind of low damage. And the good old buddy, the longbow. Yep, so that's still there. I think the longbow ultimately should do the most damage, but it's also the slowest to draw back. It has the best range. Okay, cool. So let me just revisit the composite mode and make sure I haven't goofed on that. So base damage 8, that's a lot. 8 to 12, that does. How about 6 to 10? I think seems reasonable. Let's drop it down to that. Okay, and let's start making art. And if I remember correctly, I don't think short bows actually have much recurve to them. So I think when I think short bow, I think I'm looking at a Google image search here because I like to look up ref. When I think short bow, yeah, like I don't really think of a lot of recurve. I typically think of like the bows used, yeah, like this, by like 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 I guess when we were like native tribes and kind of the more, I wouldn't say primitive, but a more basic bow. Um, and it did not have a recurve. I think the recurve should be the composite, because looking at composite bows, they do have uh, crazy recurve sometimes, or they have these, yeah, because they're made of multiple materials. Um, so let's just go ahead and try to make sure. I'm trying to differentiate the shape and the size, so we have some visual interest. Um, and also get to do the whole animation for these things too, so that's fun. Let me see. So Kazakh98X says, what language you write the game? The game is written in Java. It is a custom written engine built on top of the libgdx framework. Dr. Kegel says, differentiate them by number of strings. Typically, bows only have one string. The only time you get multiple strings is when you look at like compound bows, and it's still only one string. It's just has a system of pulleys, um, and that's just way too modern. That's just too modern for Delver. Like the compound bow is too modern of an invention. But there are I think there are still good and kind of crazy, like historic, like um, like bows that are very still good for us to use. Okay, so the short bow. So this one should not have any recurve to it. So I'm just going to quickly start just kind of doing a hack job, unfortunately. Or if it does, it should have just a very, very moderate amount of recurve. Um, okay, I mean, I'm just gonna focus mostly on the shape here before I try to get into too many specifics. Um, and this should also be when the bow's at rest. So when the bow's at rest is when it's most flat. And so I have to try to keep that in mind as well. Maybe I could bump the whole thing up a bit too. Because also the short bow should be smaller, I think, as well. I think I think the way my animations work though is the position of the handle doesn't change, so I need to keep that the same, but the string itself is what kind of changes. So Chris says, I noticed the animation still plays with no ammo left. Is this intended? Um, yeah, maybe that's something I should look into, because basically we don't do an ammo check until you actually perform the attack, which happens after you do the wind up. I can look into that and see how much of a code change that is. Right now, I'm trying to keep the code changes pretty small, because it's my intention basically after I make all these code changes is to create a pull request and to run it by Chad to make sure that I'm not making any major mistakes, because he is uh, the one who knows the engine best and how it was designed to be used. And I'm just going to kind of quickly just get this where I'm just duplicating this and uh, getting it into, why do I have, shouldn't do anti-aliasing on this. What's going on here? Is my wand, my lasso have anti-alias? Yeah, that's not good. Let's turn that off, because for pixel art, you don't want anti-alias turned on in Photoshop. You want these pixels to be nice and crisp, and I want them to be the exact colors that I define them to be. I don't want any surprises. Let's try this again. So I'm going to flip it horizontal and flip it vertical, and that should give me what I want, I believe. Let's see. And then rotate. Okay. Is that? Sorry, I'm fiddling. 90. And then it needs to be flipped again. Sorry. There we go. That should live right down there. I think that's too long. That should match nicely with that. So I need to shorten the string a bit, because I did shorten the overall size of the bow, so that would make sense. Um, so Dr. Kegel says I need to animate the bow without the arrow because in the future you want different kinds of arrows. So no, I don't want different kinds of arrows, and I don't want to animate it without because that would almost double the amount of frames required for each bow. And already the bow has 4 frames, so taking it from 4 to 7, I think would just be a waste. I think Chris is right in that I should just do a check before you actually start the animation. I think that that's the simpler solution. And again, because we're a very small team, we have to be um, kind of we have to be smart and tactical about how we use our time and what we use it on. And because I'm passionate about how well our archery works, and folks were actually complaining about it, that's why I'm actually working on this to improve it. Because I do listen when people complain on the Steam forums. I don't always respond, but I'm certainly listening. And maybe if I made it just a little bit thinner as well. Let me just do that. So trying to differentiate these as much as I can. Okay, let me go back through and fix the sellout on this, which is a term for uh, selective outlining. It's just a pixel art term. I did not make it up. That's just what it's called. So Chris says props on tackling the archery shoot was a biggie. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, again, it's because I think archery is cool and it should be cool in Delver too. So that's why I'm giving it a little love. Okay, so I think that's a okay short bow shape. Okay, so let's just go through the process of animating this. So I think the arrows should stay the same because I'm assuming that the arrows are uniform. I'm just modeling, again, like touching on what Dr. Kegel said, I'm not having different arrows. I'm kind of combining um, the different arrows you would use with a bow and the properties of the bow and the arrow into just the bow. So the arrows are an abstraction, and the bow does all the has all the unique properties. So Whitlock says this game is a hidden gem. I hadn't even heard of it before coming across your stream today. Just picked it up on Steam and it's awesome. The art is spot on and the gameplay is great. Thank you. That's very very kind of you. Yeah, that makes my day. Thank you, Whitlock. Yeah. So yeah, that's a problem with I guess making games is just uh, I guess people even knowing you exist. It's a hard thing, and I don't have a magic bullet for it. The reason that Delver has been as successful as it is because of the community. You folks have been wonderful in supporting us, and I'm just really grateful that that I get to do what I do as often as I do. It's not paying the bills right now, but I do get a little bit of compensation for it, which is cool, and I just really enjoy working on it, and the community around it is very, very kind. Chris is saying, would it be easier to design the static bows before animating them? Yeah, yeah, that's probably a better idea. Yeah, so he's suggesting that I get this very first. So the first frame here serves multiple purposes. This is the first frame of the animation. This is also the sprite that is used for both the inventory and for when it's dropped on the ground. So I think he's right in getting these um, like correct is probably the best way to go about it. And then I can worry about animating them later. Because I think it's more interesting for you folks to watch me design stuff rather than me go through the arduous and soul-crushing process of animation. And I only say that because I'm just not a super experienced animator, which is kind of why we're doing this update too, so I can get better animation. It's just a painful process, um, and I don't want to put you through that. So short bow, composite bow, hunter's bow, long bow. So I know so the long bow should be the largest, and it also there's no recurve to it. So let's do that one. So the longbow. Let me kind of give it. I'm going to give it room to breathe. Okay, let's just Control X, Control V, put that on its own little layer, and we will worry about you later. But right now, I want to worry about getting the shape of the longbow correct. Because it should be the largest bow. Again, sometimes it's better when you're just kind of working on getting the shape of something right. It's just to work in a single color. That way you're not distracted by um, shading or anything like that. So longbows actually they don't curve quite like that. They have no recurve, so I got to make sure that the shape works. But I'm squinting if you can't see. Squinting is a very I guess a very powerful tool in your artist's tool set. Squint, do it. Um, I guess that's okay. Um, let me just make a quick selection here and then drop that on the other side. And I think with this I actually need to rotate it like so and then flip it horizontal. Did I do the wrong one? Flip horizontal. There we go. So that looks like I think it ought. So this should be all the way down and looks something like that, I think. Let me see. Let me just go ahead and just blow that away. Okay. And then I think I need to even up the, so let me go ahead and just merge that down. I think it's close enough. And then I need to chip away at some of this stuff here. So, 2, 2. Okay, so I think that should work okay. So Chris is saying that English longbows have, he is correct. So English longbows are actually pretty, they're more shaped like the Roman letter D, as in delta, rather than this kind of nice little curve I have. And he's absolutely correct. So let me, because I am basing this on the English longbow. So if I just kind of change the shape a little bit to kind of better support that. So they actually are very kind of flat before they start to taper, or they start to change their shape a bit. Okay. might be. Let me again because I need to get both sides of this. Let me just chop this off here. Actually, we just chop the whole darn thing off. And then just do a lasso select and just quickly duplicate it. I can fix the shading errors and stuff like that pretty quick afterwards. I just want to make sure you get the shape of this thing right. I think that's better. I think that's certainly more square. I may want to use just that last little bit of room that I have, though. I don't know if I want to actually. Maybe I'll give myself a little bit of room to breathe because I don't want to fill up the entirety of it. That might be a more correct shape. Let me bring that down. Bring that down. It still might be. It might be too thick. I think these bows are too thick. Let me go ahead and do the same thing I did with the short bow and just make it a little bit more narrow. Take off some of the material off the back here to make it, I think, feel a little bit better maybe. I think it's also it's like if you look the ref that Chris provided, it's I think yeah I think this part's too thick out here, so I need to make sure that's maybe thin that up a bit too. So one. Maybe that looks a little bit more correct. Maybe so. Maybe that's working a little bit better. Oh, I might want to bring it in. Let me just again we're only going to work on one side and just kind of rely on symmetry to make things work. So maybe something like that. I just don't want it to be long. I just don't want it to be disproportionate. That seems to be a bit closer. Let me see. Hey, Abram. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, I appreciate the compliment. Yeah, still working on Delver, trying to get it done. I have coffee I'd forgotten about. It's coffee time. Time for more coffee. Yeah, cool. So yeah, and yeah, Chris says don't hesitate to stylize. Yeah, and again, he's absolutely right. A lot of times in Delver, I'm not going for hyper realism, obviously, because I have a very finite amount of pixels to work with. So if I can make something like be more of a representation than an actual proper rendering, I will take that route. So Evram is asking, is it Evram or is it Evram? I've never quite figured out how to pronounce your name. My Turkish is non-existent. Um, so we want to finish. I'm committing to finishing Delver next year. Um, and I'd love to keep working on Delver. It just depends. Like, so right now I'm a stay-at-home father, and Delver brings in some income, but not a lot. So I think as long as Delver keeps bringing in some income, I'll keep working on it. Obviously, I do want to move on to new projects in the future, but um, like um, a couple weeks ago was Steam Dev Days that Chad and I both went to, and we sat down with some folks at Valve, and we kind of had a list of questions we went through about Steam Workshop support, and we actually got to chat a little bit with the guy who implemented Steam Workshop, which was kind of cool, and kind of answered the questions we had. So workshop support is something that is very important to us, and I think will help. At a certain point, we can just kind of hand over the reins to the community. But yeah, basically, as long as Delver's still generating a little bit of income, I'll keep working on it because um, it's hard now that we're a single income family. I mean, it makes I don't know. It just makes life more difficult, and a lot of folks do it. It's just it's a different dynamic. So Wizlock is asking about the network multiplayer. No, unfortunately, it's not ever going to be a multiplayer game because it was built to be a single player game, and there's just a lot of considerations you have to do when designing multiplayer games. Um, like basically, like basically the trick is the serialization and synchronization of the entire game state across the wire somehow. And there's many ways of doing that. And like there are just many problems we'd have to solve with Delver, like um, because it's procedurally generated, we have to make sure that um, I'm not sure how deterministic the procedural generation is. Um, like if you it I don't know. Again, it wasn't built with multiplayer in mind, so I would say no. I would, but as kind of a caveat to that, I would love to in the future do a multiplayer-ish RPG thing potentially, but that would be a different project. Um, so Pyro says he's here because he can't find Delver support and he's stuck in a pit and oh, so okay, so yeah, so you spoke with me on Twitter. I think the best way for you to get around that is to is here. I'll show you. What you can do is when you launch Steam and you um, go to Delver, and then you right click and go properties, and then you can do launch options. And if you type in debug equals true, you will get the developer options. And the easiest way to do is once you do debug equals true, um, launch your game, go to this pit you're stuck in, press L to go down a level, and then you can exit out and then remove this and then play as normal. Unfortunately, I think your case is so the case is once the procedural generation it has been done, we serialize the entire level. So even if we update the tiles after the fact in an update, we don't actually go back through and check the level we generated. So you'd have to use a developer cheat to get around that. Um, so yeah, so Chris is working with a team in New Zealand on a game called Sky Noon, which looks really sweet. They were just recently greenlit on Steam, which is amazing. I'm very, very happy for them. But yeah, they're doing multiplayer, and um, he can probably better appreciate all the pains that go into it. Right. And so Evram, he gave me a way to Evram, Evram. I'm not sure what the E with accent means, but um, Yeah. So let me see if I could find it. Chris, do you guys have a proper website? Let me see. Yeah, since I'm talking about it, let me just pull it up to you guys. So this is Chris's game called Sky Noon. Uh, Lunar Rooster game, lunarrooster.com will get you there. It looks beautiful. Let me see if I can find some screenshots. Maybe. Do you have screenshots? Press. Maybe. Yeah, look at this. Look how gorgeous this is. It's like Wild West Team Fortress 2, with like jetpacks and grappling hooks, and it just looks so good. Look at that guy. This is one of the things I liked about it is they paid attention to like how the dirt and dust would get on these people's boots and pants, and it just looks so good. Sorry, I'm gushing right there. But for those of you who are interested in other game development, yeah, that's what Chris does, and he every once in a while joins the chat. Um, yeah, so Evram is talking about uh, transitioning to multiplayer, and the thing is, I mean, Delver was not initially like it's one thing to make a game, and it's one thing to make an engine, and I don't know if we were necessarily designing the engine to actually be terribly future proof, if you understand what I mean, like we've mostly been in the mode where we have like cool ideas and we try to push forward with those. And I mean, future proofing is good if you have a budget and a large team. But for us, we just need to be as nimble as we can and try to get progress done as fast as we can, unfortunately. So sometimes that means, um, making choices that make it like kind of lock us in on certain technical issues. But certainly in the future, I would love to do a multiplayer game, either local or like four player. I think would be cool. Um, but also still maybe with a like possible single player component as well. Because I like multi, but sometimes it's hard to find people to actually play with, and that is a serious concern with multi, especially local multi. Local multiplayer games demo super well, but I don't I don't believe they sell incredibly well, which is a shame. I mean, I do own several local multi games. I love when I have a chance to actually break them out when I have friends over. It's just not as often as I would like. Cool. I think Pyre Arson says it worked. He could finally play the game again. Cool. I'm glad. Got you unstuck. Um, again, yeah. If you guys have any issues or questions, concerns, comments, whatever. I try to be as responsive as I can. I can't guarantee that I'm super fast about it, but like I do want to like have you guys have an enjoyable time. So please feel free to reach out to me. You can tweet to me. I'm at Joshua Skelly on Twitter. You can email me directly if you want. My email address is joshua.skelton, Skelton, at gmail.com. I'm happy to talk to you about issues you're having or just about game design or pixel art or whatever you want to talk to me about. Um, yeah, yep. So Ibram is talking about some of the early days of Delver, and yeah, it's definitely the code base is way more complicated, and it's just again like serializing serializing and synchronizing stuff across the wire and maintaining the correct game state would be tough. Okay, so I think the longbow shape is cool. I think also, so like I don't know, maybe I think I'll leave the wood color the same, um, and then, or maybe not, and then maybe have differentiate it with different colored grips. Um, I guess maybe the composite bow should actually have different colors. I don't know. Um, let's get the string on this. Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, but I appreciate Chris pointing out to me. It is far more important for me to get the designs of the bows figured out, and then I can throw them down on the ground next to each other, make sure that they all read well. that they look different enough from each other that you can kind of tell what's going on. Um, so hunter's bow versus a longbow, oh, they're probably super similar, Joshua. Now when you're making arbitrary bows. Um, so Pyro Arson says he doesn't know what the name of the game being worked on in New Zealand is, but most New Zealand game design facilities I've heard of also have extremely poor funding due to the way the country is. Um, yeah, so I mean, again, it's interesting. I don't live in New Zealand. I live in the Seattle area of Washington State. I live in the Pacific Northwest. Actually, if you've seen the TV show Twin Peaks, I live basically really close to the Great Northern Hotel, which is kind of cool. Um, but we don't really have great funding um, either. There might be, I wonder if there might be art grants or something like that, but what, to my knowledge, no. So this is something that I do in my free time, and because I love it. Um, I think they just changed the grip color while I'm thinking about it. Yeah, let's do green. I like that green on the shield. Let me just grab a slice of this guy. Let me see. Yeah, so Chris is in New Zealand. So he's talking about. So it's people are talking about. So the chat is talking about game dev. So I'll let them happily talk about game dev, and I will just keep working on my little thing here because game dev is cool, and I'm really curious like where you folks are from, and if you are into game dev or just playing games in general, um, because every country is different in how they handle it, and some have um, some have excellent resources for supporting artists and developers, and some countries could be better about it. Okay, I think that's better, more or less. Yeah, yeah, maybe. Um, Whoa, Ephraim, you restarted Starshock development. I'm so excited. You should email me what you got. I want to take a look. Please do, please do. Yeah, and I don't know if I ever told you this. Maybe this will be a stream special because I was working on something in secret a very long time ago, but my my capacity for secret additional projects has kind of gone away. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So with an older version of Delver, I began working on making um, a Starshock implementation inside the Delver engine, and I've had some success. Like I have your little doors, we have breakables. I think, yeah. This is an older version of the Delver engine, so it's not as well refined. Um, but yeah, I would if I don't know, like if you want to use the Delver engine, that might be something we can talk about. But I know you are a hardcore programmer. Well, you enjoy programming, so that would probably take away a lot of the fun for you. But um, yeah, I'm really excited to hear that you're working on the project. I never, basically, I was just replicating the work that you and Immortarius had done. Um, yeah. So hopefully you like the Evram. Again, you know how to get a hold of me if you wanna talk about stuff, or if you just need, yeah, just pick my brain. I'd love to see what you're working on. Um, so So he's asking, no, I didn't, I'm not actually importing your levels. What I did is, yeah, this is, so for those of you not seen it, this is the old version of the Delver editor, which is quaint. It's not as nice as it is now. And uh, nope, that's not the right one. Yeah, so Evram, I've just been actually just using the Delver editor to recreate your very first level. And you know, I have like all the triggers and stuff set up to do whatever you had them do, and I've been trying to kind of closely, as close as I could, replicate um, what you guys had worked on. Um, and then I was gonna surprise you with like a procedural version of it to actually do like random level generation. Um, but again, I don't have like my time, my ability to work on stuff in my free time just isn't as as what it used to be. Um, so True Creeper 25 is saying hello, hello, thank you for joining the stream. Again, I guess we're an hour and a half in. I typically do 2 hours on my dev stream. So my name is Joshua. I'm working on a game called Delver. You can find it at delvergame.com. We are an early access game. We're on Steam. If that's something you're interested in, cool. If not, and you'd rather wait for us to launch, that's also cool. I appreciate you just supporting me by watching my stream and asking questions. It's very motivating to work in front of you guys. Um, I think that's it. Yeah. Yeah, so everyone is talking about his uh he was making a procedural first person like space dungeon crawler game, which is really cool, and I really liked it. And I think I helped you out with some like some frustum calling stuff maybe. Um but yeah. Yeah, our editor is pretty cool. Um because I mean it started humbly, like our level editor used to be just the level was a bitmap, and you would just different colors signified different heights and stuff, and it was kind of hard to work with. Okay, so okay, Joshua, short bow, composite bow, bow, hunter's bow, long bow. So the long bow looks good, the short bow looks good. I'm going to leave the composite bow as is. So I still need to differentiate the other two bows. So um, so I think the other bows ought not to be recurve. I think the composite bow should be unique in that regard. Um, Actually, let me just stop and take a moment and just look at what they currently look like. I think I've saved. Let me just make sure. Save. Let me flatten out my file. Let's launch this. Yeah. Yeah. How is Stefan, by the way? I've not heard much out of him in a while. Hopefully everything is okay in his part of the world. Okay, so let's drop down the short bow. Looks like I need to adjust the Y offset a little bit, but that's okay. I need to do the longbow. Let me kind of just put it side by side. Yeah, actually, I think it looks significantly larger. If I were to wield them. See, the way it's being held currently is a little odd. Might also have to tweak how this looks, because you can't really, I mean, the only way you can really tell that they're different sizes is when you actually kind of um, are able to scrutinize them on the ground. But I guess it's going to have to be subtle differences and maybe like shape and color differences. Um, um, So cool. So everyone was talking about Stefan. Stefan seems to be doing well. So Stefan is a very talented pixel artist that he and everyone work on stuff together. Um, Karakin has said, "I would like an MMO in this game style." Well, that would be cool, but we're a two-man team, so like MMO is kind of beyond our scale, and I mean, like my skill set is primarily like I am a programmer by trade, so that's why I was able to jump in and make these changes to archery and kind of not be totally lost. But I just don't know a lot about um, like MMOs and networking, and that'd be something I think, be best learned on a new project where we have the time to do it. Because right now I feel a lot of time pressure to be productive and try to get Delver in a good, finished, polished state. Um, yep. Yeah, yeah. Having people play your game is certainly a motivating factor. Um, um, Tesla Coil says hello. Hey, Tesla Coil. Um, Yeah, so if you're just joining, I'm working on a special branch of the Delver engine where I have revamped archery. Yeah, I'll just go and show it off because I showed it off at the very beginning. I'll show it off now again, um, where I'm improving the experience around archery, so it's actually interesting and not bad. But before, the arrows would kind of behave like they were hard to predict. Um, So let's just use the bow because the animation on that is correct. And let me drop some arrows so I can do some stuff. Uh, Arrows. Another thing too we've also added is now the arrows stack automatically. Before they would not, and that was a pain. So folks would basically like the stacks wouldn't automatically merge, so you'd have to basically pick up two stacks, fire all of the arrows out of one stack and then pick them up and they go to the other stack. So now they just automatically merge, which is nice. If you shoot an arrow into the wall, it will stick, which is cool. So you can just, fill the wall full of arrows. The collision isn't 100%, so sometimes they might jump around in position a little bit. For the most part, it works well. If I want, I can smack them out of the wall and pick them up. Or if I want, I can create a little potion trap here. Um, smack the potion, hop back. The explosion will knock all the arrows off the wall, which is cool. Also, if you attack the wall at a slight angle, the arrow will ricochet. So my arrows are actually bouncing off the wall and going down here, which is cool. Another thing to make archery better is now when you attack enemies, they actually drop the arrows that get stuck into them. So that then again makes the playing as an archer a little bit more feasible. What else? Yeah, also you can have the enchantments work correctly. So again, I showed this earlier, but I'll show it again for the folks who joined the stream late. Let's do Tesla Coils Sweet Bow. And what I want to do is I'm going to add an enchantment to it. And then if I look down at the bottom of this file, we have these item modifications. So I'm just going to take fire. So I'm going to copy this modification, and then I'm going to set that as the enchantment for that item. So there. Okay, cool. So now when we launch into the game, So if we launch the game now, I can do ranged. I think it was number 3. And then we have test the coil, sweet bow of burning. Yep. And now if you have these enchanted items, the text will reflect that. So it's blue because it's enchanted. Let me drop down some arrows. I'll show you. So now that we have this enchanted bow, the bow will actually honor the enchantment. So it adds a dynamic light. It adds the correct color particles to it. It also honors the damage type. So this is a fire arrow now that's coming out of this bow. I don't have any examples of this, but the arrows now should also respect the knockback given to the bow. So you potentially could have bows with knockback, which is cool. Let me see. Karakin is saying 100% arrow recover. So that's the kind of game I'm thinking is like for the most part you can recover all your arrows, but potentially like you could shoot an arrow up here, and then the question is how are you going to get it down, right? Like you can put arrows above like lava or above bottomless pits, and like you kind of in effect lost that arrow. Like you can like if I had like um, let's say a missile wand. Um, I can use the missile wand to knock it down. Like I can, shoot a shot up there and it will drop down and I can pick it up. But that's kind of an expensive way to, like, wands are pretty precious. I don't know if I really want to waste my wand to recover a single arrow. Testa Coil says, it's not like I'm happy. You called it that be Baka. I'm not sure. Did I do something? Did I offend you? I'm not sure what you mean. Um, I'm confused. So Karakin is a potential chance to the arrow to break. Yeah, I thought that would be interesting. I thought that might be interesting. Like if you shoot it into a wall, maybe there's like a 5% chance that the arrow breaks. But again, we like the arrow drop rate isn't very high. But I want to get it into folks' hands and see what they um, how folks use it because if I want you to have like I want arrow management to be interesting, so I don't want you to be like so flush with arrows it doesn't matter, and I don't want arrows to be so rare that like you're like risking your life to collect them, but I want a kind of a balance. Oh, sorry, I don't watch. I used to watch anime when I years ago, but I mean these days I just don't have time to really watch too much TV in general. Um, So Chris is saying, can we knock it down by throwing junk at it? Maybe. So let's put an arrow in the wall and let's spawn in some junk. So our good old tankard, maybe? Let's try that. So if I put the tankard in my primary, or if I equip the tankard, you should be able to left click to charge it up and you can throw it. Oh, nope. Maybe I missed. The hitbox on the arrow is kind of small. Ow, ow. So the tankard can hurt me. I'm not sure how. um, maybe junk doesn't actually register a hit with other items. They might register a collision, but they don't. Because right now, that's too funny. So the arrow will knock free if it gets hit with an attack, or if it gets hit with a physics impulse. What I could do, I guess, is if I wanted to burn a potion, like if I know this is a bad potion, I can wind it up and I could throw it and whoa. Okay. Yeah. So potion grenades don't explode on impact, only if you hit enemies. But yeah, so luckily this one's close enough that I can pick it up. But yeah, so I'm trying to add a little bit more flavor to how the archery game works. I'm also probably going to have to rebalance like item drops because I think right now um, any given piece of loot in the dungeon, there's a 6% chance that it's an archer related item, and of that 6%, there's a 50% chance it's arrows and a 50% chance it's bows. So there's like you have a 3% chance for each item drop to actually get a bow. whereas you have like a 20% or a 14% chance of getting a melee weapon, and like a 20% chance of getting armor. So I need to kind of balance those out a little bit to kind of allow you to play as a melee fighter, as a ranged fighter, or as a magic fighter. Chris says he now wants to do um, a junk only run. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's possible. I mean, you can certainly do damage. It did a point of damage to me. Let me see. Let me spawn in an enemy. Pew! That hurt him. So I guess potentially you could do a junk only run, but it would be really hard. Um, so so I again I mean I so Testicle, you did cool stuff with negative knockback, but um, I don't think bows should have a negative knockback. When you get hit with a bow, you should be knocked back like normal because it's a significant amount of force being impacted into you. Um, Potentially you could I mean so let me do something real quick. Let's escape out of this and let me change my project configuration. Desktop. So yeah, I'm going to turn on uh, uh, draw debug boxes because this allows me to see the hit boxes. I don't want to debug it; I just want to run it. So if I can see the hit boxes, it's kind of helped me. It's what I use to help kind of improve the arrow experience. Um, Let me see. Uh, so yeah, let's play this. Okay, cool. So now when I stick an arrow into the wall, um, you can see that that cube right there is the arrow's hitbox. So what I do is I do a little bit of special handling because if if an item actually clips inside the geometry, then we will actually move it to the top. So what I do is when we collide with a wall, actually I back out the arrow until it's no longer colliding with the wall, and then I set its floating property to be true. So it will just maintain its position, and then I do some special handling if it gets hit or manipulated by physics. So in theory, if I hit that box with another arrow, it should work. It's just sometimes the collision here is a little wonky. Um, but yeah, I can just smack them out with my potentially like, and maybe also too maybe hitting them should have a higher chance of actually breaking them because using a sword to smack your arrow out of a wall is probably not the best way to recover arrows. Um, cool. So let me turn off uh, that because it's kind of obnoxious unless you're trying to debug collisions, which sometimes I do. Um, yeah, no, I think Tetsuko was saying he's thinking of some kind of a chant like a vacuum. I think it would be cool to have like a single-use scroll that pulls everything into you. So you can do something cool where like you pull everything in and then you do an explosion, like another explosion scroll, or if you have like a potion trap setup, that could be cool. Yeah, I think you're right in the fact that there is something there that could be played around with. Certainly, that's. I mean, we're trying to get as much use out of this engine as we can. So if we can find multiple uses for different features, I'm all about that. True Creeper says, will multiplayer be added? No. Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the stream, but Delver is a single player game. Again, I'll repeat it. I would love to do a multiplayer project, but um, the game would have to be developed. Um, with multiplayer in mind, or when you write your own engine, you have to so you have to be mindful to build it in a way that allows it to be easily done. Like I think I mean Delver could be converted to multiplayer maybe, but it would just take a lot of effort and a lot of time, and um, I just don't know if the payoff would be that big. So I'd rather have Delver be a nice single player procedural first person fantasy roguelike thing, and I would like to do a maybe another procedural roguelike thing that might not be fantasy, um, and it might have multiplayer. I think that could be cool. I think there's some interesting stuff to be done there. And I think if we build it from the ground up with multiplayer in mind, um, I think that would make I think that make the project better, and it would progress at a better rate. Um, okay, cool. So there's about 10 minutes left. I try to keep these dev streams to 2 hours, mostly so that they're palatable and you guys can actually not get super bored with what I'm doing. But also that, I am a dad and I want to go, hang out with my family. So I am very grateful that my wife is very supportive of me, and like we have always, we set aside these 2 hours every Sunday for me to have time to stream and to work on Delver. Occasionally, in the evenings, as time permits, when my son is asleep, I do bonus streams. So if you follow me on Twitch or on Twitter, sometimes late at night when I have some free time, I will just pop up randomly and do a bonus stream. Generally, there's not much warning on those, so following me is the best way to get notified of those. Um, da, 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 da. Um, Yep. No, for me, the pixelated style is nice because it allows me to work quickly. Like I can do high poly art, and I can do very like high text like 4K texture art if so desired. Um, it's just I can work on this stuff way faster. Um, uh, if the assets are smaller, and I think adding constraints helps guide a project. Like if I know that, for example, like most items are only going to ever have like 8 to 12 colors, and they're probably going to be no bigger than 32 by 32, like it the possibility space gets smaller, but it helps me be more creative, if that makes sense. Like when the options are limited, like it's really hard to parse that space creatively. Yeah, people are asking about crossbows. Maybe the Delver engine does have support for hit scan weapons, and that might be an interesting case for that. But right now, for this, since this is something I did on the side and it wasn't planned, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. But I think there is value in improving the archery experience. So I want to get a solid archery experience in Delver, and I want to see how people react to it. And if people do an archer only playthrough, I think that'd be cool. So I want to start with the bows and then maybe crossbows, maybe not. It just depends like what tech level the world of Delver exists in, you know? Yeah, so Karakin is saying easier to decorate a small room than a giant one. Yeah, and that's why we're leveraging procedural generation as well, is if you build procedural systems, like you have to build them with intentionality. But you can let them do a lot of heavy lifting while still doing interesting things. Like we use a blend of handmade and procedural, which I think works well because it takes a lot of the work off of us, and as long as we kind of tweak the procedural generation to be in a good state, I think it helps save time and effort. Okay, so I'm getting stuck on these bows. So short composite bow, hunter's bow, longbow. So I know, let me just stop dawdling, and I know that I want the hunter's bow. I want it to be larger than the bow, because it's not quite as big as a longbow. And the hunter's bow is a totally fabricated thing. Well, I guess not. Maybe because I said that the bows themselves are an abstraction of both the bow and the arrow type, that maybe a hunter's bow is a long bow, but with a lighter arrow that's designed for game and not necessarily designed for taking down armed combatants. So maybe I was doing something kind of not well interesting, maybe not. Where Chris was saying, like, if I was doing a more English style bow, it's flat in the middle, but what if I had a little bit more curve to it for a hunter's bow? Or maybe I should start with the long bow and work backwards. Maybe that makes more sense. So let's drag this here, give ourselves a copy, and then I want to make it maybe a bit smaller and then not as square. I don't know. Yeah, so Chris, yeah, that's a great suggestion. Chris is saying like some recurve bows have this kind of this shape where they actually go in the middle, and sometimes when you take the string off these, they actually curve the really far the opposite direction. So yeah, maybe that's something I can do for the um, maybe for the composite. Maybe the composite would have something like that. So um, because I think if you look up composite bows, they kind of look like that. Um, so let me just kind of hackedly move that back a bit. Yeah, I think that that could work. And then if I kind of clean this up, I think it could help differentiate certainly how that looks. And because I want it to be recurve, I think that works out well. Maybe even push the recurviness of this even more. Um, I don't think recurviness is a word, but hopefully you let that slide. And kind of maybe pull the material back on here a little bit like that. That may work. Just again to add some differentiation to the bows. Again, this is not super realistic, but um, it's more of a stylistic choice. And I'm kind of just right now I'm just kind of exploring designs, trying to find one that I think works okay. Karakin says, do I use a mouse for making art? No, I use an ancient Wacom N203. It doesn't say the year. I want to say I've had this maybe 10 years. I really like working with the tablet, just because I just find it a little bit more natural. Um, and I think sometimes my stroke quality is good for different, like not just necessarily pixel art, but other types of art. My stroke quality is better. Um, yeah. So if you like, um, even I've even tried like the little cheap Wacom bamboos, and I think I got one for less than $100, and I like it. I still um, so I guess I bought that one when I moved up to Seattle because all my stuff was in storage. So I bought a quick one so I could still draw. And I still like it. I use that one whenever I go to like game jams that are not local. I carry that around with me so I still have a tablet to work with. Yeah, I like working with a graphics tablet. Um, it's just one of those things though. It takes like if you haven't used one, it takes your brain a little bit to adjust. Um, it's like it's not the most natural thing um, to because like when you write, you look down at the paper, or when you draw traditionally, you look at the paper while you work. But with graphic tablets, you have to kind of get into the mental mindset that you're going to be looking away from your hand um, while you work, which takes a little bit of getting used to. But once you get past that, I love working with graphics tablets. So yeah, if you can get a hold of one, you should. But if you can't, don't sweat it. I know several folks who use mice, and it's totally a valid way to work. Okay. So yeah, I like the shape of that. I think there might be too much material there still, so oh man, let me kind of just chip away at that. I don't want it to look bad, though. Again, playing around with designs, trying to find something I like. Um, Maybe if I add more material that way. Um, Sorry, my phone is blowing up. Let me get. I'm worried about that being picked up by the mic. Yeah, I don't like that as much. Let me back up. Okay. I think that's working for what I want it to do. Maybe. I think I can also simulate that by having like a darker color there. Maybe we'll see. Um, uh, um, so why are you different from the mouse? Again, like for me, for example, like let's say here, I'll open up. Uh, this is just for pixel art in general, like uh, pixel art, pixel dailies. This is a recent pixel daily I did of Cruella de Vil, and I was working pretty large here, and so I was doing these very large strokes. Um, Let me see. Oh yeah, image mode RGB. So like I have these, like sometimes when I'm working, I like to do like like I'll quickly like do something like that, and then I'll kind of like you're drawing a face, right? You're kind of doing the skull shape, and this is super huge. Sorry, I'll go smaller. So like it just allows me to work quickly and to like get these nice strokes. I can get these smooth strokes. Where with I was trying to emulate that with a mouse, I can kind of get similar, but I just like working with a tablet. For me, it's a little bit more natural, a little bit more quick. Um, um, yeah. Again, it's just personal preference. Like if that's not the way you work, then that's not the way you work. No biggie. Like I don't really believe in like universal like truths or laws for like art or even game development, right? Like what works for one project doesn't necessarily hold true for every project. So you need to kind of be smart about how you work. And just because something works for me doesn't mean it'll work for you. I mean, but I'm happy to share how I work if you can take something from it. And that's kind of the whole point of these. So I just kind of I just noticed the time, and it is time for me to go. I'm sorry that it snuck up on me. Um, but yeah, I truly limit these to 2 hours, so it's time for me to go have fun with my family. But I really appreciate you folks coming to support me by watching the dev stream. Your feedback is very helpful, um, and your support by buying the game, by watching me, is very greatly appreciated. I look forward to every Sunday because of this. Um, Again, if you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me on Twitter at Joshua Skelly, Skelly. You can email me directly at joshua.skelton@gmail.com. I think that's it. I think you guys should go have a good Sunday, and I will see you in a week if I don't do a bonus stream. Bye.